To get started on our summer bucket hat, we're going to grab the most important piece, our yarn. Today we're going to be using the Bernat Maker Home Decor. It says home decor, but I found that this yarn is just so great for the summer months in warmer weather. So we're going to be using this yarn. In addition, we'll need an 8mm crochet hook. Make sure you check your gauge, a pair of scissors, and a darning needle. Once you have all those things, let's get started. All right, to get started, we are going to place a slip knot onto our hooks and tighten it so it's secure. We're gonna go ahead and chain 3 and then insert our hook into the first chain that we made. We're going to do this in order to create a circle that we're going to work our double crochets into. So as you'll see here, I've now created a loop. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chain 2. This does not count as your first double crochet. Normally I like to make a chain 3 and have that count as my first double crochet, but in order to have no gaps or make it look more continuous, I'm going to do the chain 2 method, which will not count. So after you've chained 2, we're going to work 12 double crochets into our center. So I just worked one, I'll show you another. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the center here, pull through 2, pull through 2. I'm actually gonna rework that one because it got a little loose. So I'll show that to you again then. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the loop, yarn over, pull through. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so now I'm going to work until I have a total of 12 double crochets in the center of our chain 3. Okay, once you have 12, we're gonna go ahead and join this row. So we're going to insert our hook into the first double crochet. And if you need help finding that, it's actually just going to be not any of the chain 1 or chain 2, but the first loop that the actual double crochet makes. So let me zoom in a little. So as you can see, we have our chain 1, chain 2, and then the top of our double crochet. We want to insert there and then work 1 slip stitch. Zoom back out. Okay, so we've just completed our first round, and something that I like to do is I'm actually going to flip the work over and just pull on our tail, which actually closes the center loop a little bit. It just looks a little bit cleaner. You definitely don't have to do that. So now we should have 12 double crochets, and we're going to work 24 in this next round. So what that means is we're going to chain 2 to get started. This does not count as a double crochet. And then we're going to work 2 double crochets into every double crochet from the previous round. So we're going to yarn over, insert into that same double crochet we slipped into, work 1 double crochet, yarn over, into that same stitch, we're going to work another double crochet. So you're just going to do that the whole way around. Okay, so something I want to show you, I have 1 stitch left. It kind of looks like I have 2, but this last one is actually our slip stitch from the previous row. So what I'm going to do is work 2 more double crochets into the last stitch, And then I'm going to count to just double check that I have 24s. Yep, so I have 24 stitches, so that further makes sure that we aren't working into this one. So we are going to then complete this round like we did the previous and like we will all the rounds by slipping into that first double crochet and making it a full circle. So after the second round, we have 2 more increase rows left. So each increase row will be slightly different for the spaces of increases. But something I like to note is that if you don't love counting, just note that every increase will go in between the previous increase. So right here we have an increase from the previous round. Our increase will then go into this hole, if that makes sense. So I'm going to chain 2, and then the pattern for this increase round, let me zoom out, is 1 double crochet and then an increase. So 2 double crochets into the next space. So as you can see, like I mentioned, this increase is in the middle of the previous row's increase. So let me work this one. So then our next, so then to continue the pattern, we are going to work 1 double crochet and then an increase. Basically just increasing every other stitch as opposed to every stitch like we did in the previous row. So I'm on my increase. So we're going to work 1 double crochet and then 1 increase, which means 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the row. Okay, so like I mentioned in the previous round, we are going to not work into the slip stitch, and you should now have 36 stitches in your row. So, and you know, you can always count, but if you are getting sick of counting, you know that you probably did it right if you end on an increase. So I ended on an increase, so I'm gonna go ahead and join my round by slipping into the first double crochet. Now we have 3 rows. So now we're gonna work our last increase row. And to do this, we are going to chain 2, does not count as a single crochet. We are going to work 1 single crochet, does not count as a double crochet, and we're going to work 1 double crochet into that same stitch we slipped into. We are then going to work 1 more double crochet into the next stitch, and now we will be increasing. So if you look closely, you'll see we're working into the middle of the increase from the previous row. So the pattern here is 2 single double crochets, 1 increase. So basically 2 double crochets and then an increase. So we're gonna work 1, then we're gonna work another 1 into the next stitch, and then we are going to increase. And if you figured it out, you'll note that we are increasing 12 stitches every round, and since our piece is getting larger, we don't need to increase every stitch. So basically the spacing goes up. but it does follow a pretty systematic approach. And so if you ever want to make a double crochet circle, you could go on forever following the spacing rules. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row. I wanted to point out that I noticed I actually missed a decrease on the previous row. So I'm going to go ahead, unravel, and then I'll meet you back right before we're about to finish the 4th row. Okay, so let that be a little lesson from me to you, that if you don't count, you do run the risk of missing an increase. And I will say the increases on the top of the hat are extremely important because it kind of determines the entire fit of the hat. When we do our brim increases, I'm less concerned there, but I would definitely try to make sure that your increases on the hat top are correct. So we have 4 stitches left. So I'm going to work, I'm on an increase, so I'm going to work my increase. And then I'm going to work 1 double crochet, another double crochet in the next stitch, and then work my final increase on this round and for the top of the hat. So if you watched, well, let's finish this round by slipping into the first double crochet. So if you watched my winter bucket hat, it was a little bit chunkier, and so the shaping is going to be a little different for this one because we want it to be a little bit more snug so when we're playing outside it doesn't fall off or anything. I would say that this pattern I'm showing you is more suited for a smaller head, which is anything from like 20 to 22 inches in circumference. If you're making a larger hat for say like a 23 to 25 inch head, I would add 1 more row of increases. And to do that, you would just follow the increase pattern. You'd work 3 double crochets and then an increase and then repeat that the whole way around. But for now, we're going to make the smaller size. And so we are done with shaping. And now we are going to just work 6 rows of regular, honest, good double crochets. I don't know what that means, but just regular double crochets, nothing fancy. I will say again, on my other bucket hat, we worked back loop only to kind of create a wall. But since this yarn is more stretchy, less thick, we don't kind of have to do that because we don't have to force the shaping at all. So I chained 2 and I'm going to work 1 more double crochet into that same stitch we slipped into. And then I'm just going to, as I said, work 1 double crochet into every stitch. So I'll show you this row and then I'll hop off camera to finish the last 5 because I don't think we all need to watch me do that. It'll be a little tedious. Another thing I want to mention as well is in my chunkier crochet bucket hat, you normally would, my normal rule of thumb is that the top of the hat should be your head circumference divided by pi, for all my math fans out there, which normally comes out to approximately 7. This is closer to 6-ish, maybe a little less, but that's because, like I said, this hat is going to stretch. We want it to stretch so it fits snug. So I will just say that if you're wondering why that differs a little. So I'll go ahead and finish this row. All right. So I have 1 stitch left. Again, it looks like 2, but we're going to skip this slip stitch. And then I will work that last slip into the first double crochet. And as you can see, this is starting to build that shape. It's not as drastic as I normally do in my like chunkier bucket hats, as I've said a million times. But that's kind of what we want. We want it to be more gradual, and that's just a function of this being thinner yarn and a little bit more stretchy. So I'm going to work 7 total rows, so 6 more total rows after this of regular double crochets. I think earlier I said 6. You should have 7 total rows of no increases, just regular double crochet. And that will be the entirety of the side of our hat. So I am going to hop off camera and finish those 7 rows, and then we'll meet back for the brim. Okay, if you are where you need to be, you should have 11 total rounds from the very top of the hat all the way to the bottom. And it's gonna look a little silly, but trust the process, because once the brim goes on, it's gonna look amazing. So to begin the brim, we're gonna chain 2. We're gonna work 1 double crochet into the front loop only. Let me zoom in. Front loop only of that same stitch we slipped into. So we're gonna go under the first loop only, yarn over, pull through, and then complete our double crochet. I'll show you that again. We're gonna yarn over, go into the front loop only. Normally we go under both, but here we're going through just that front one. And since we're working that same increase pattern as the last row of increases at the top, we are now going to work our increase. So you're just going to repeat that the whole way around. So I'm going to work 1 front loop double crochet into the next stitch. I'm going to work another front loop double crochet into the next stitch. And then we're going to work our increases into the next stitch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out and complete the rest of this row. I will say on this row, if you're not a counter, you should be on this row, just because there's nothing to go off of in the previous row, and this setup row is probably the most important out of all of the brim rows. I know I mentioned at the beginning of the video that the increases in the brim, they aren't make or break if you miss one, because we're kind of overcompensating with, we are increasing 18 stitches instead of only 12. So that'll overcompensate a little. However, you don't want to miss any on this first row. So with that said, I'm going to stop talking so I can focus and finish the brim row. Okay, I have 3 stitches left. That's how I know I increased correctly, because I have one last set of a single double crochet, increase. I know I said that ending on an increase is a good indicator, while actually a better indicator is if you have the number of stitches left that make up the increase pattern. So there we have it, our very first brim row. So now we're going to complete the round by slipping into the first double crochet. And I recommend you try your hat on now, because it looks adorable. It looks like a little like lady hat with the tiny little brim. But we're not stopping here. So the next row is going to be more increases, but no front loop. So now that was our only front loop row. We're going to be working regular double crochets now. So we're going to chain 2. We're going to be working in the pattern of work 3 double crochets and then an increase. So sets of 4 this time. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into that same stitch we slipped into, and then work 1, work 1, and then work an increase. And like I mentioned before, that increase is in the same spot that our previous increase was in. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop off camera to finish this round, since these rounds are taking a little bit longer to complete, since we're adding 18 stitches every time. So I will go ahead and hop off and then meet you back at the end of the round. Okay, I'm at the end of my second round of the brim. I'm going to slip into that first double crochet, and now I will show you the setup of the pattern for the third row of the brim. So we're going to chain 2, And this time we're going to work 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets and then our increase. So we'll be working in sets of 5, if that makes sense. So we're going to work back into that stitch we slipped into. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to work our increase. So I'll show you that one more time and then I'm going to hop off camera again. So we're going to work into the next stitch, just 1 double crochet, same thing in the next, so that's 2, 3, and then 4. And then after that 4th, we're working our increase. And there you have it. Just keep repeating that until you get to the end of your round. All right, your hat should look like this at this point. It's starting to really look like a bucket hat. I will say the brim is flexible. Do as many or as little rows as you want. But through my trial and error on this hat, I found that 4 is a really good 4 rows is a really good standard, I would say. I don't know if standard's the right word, but okay. So we've completed our 3rd round of the brim. We have 1 left to follow my exact pattern. And so we are going to be working in sets of 6 this time. So we're going to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets and then our increase. So I chain 2 and I'm going to work 1 double crochet back into that stitch we slipped into, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, so that is 3, another double crochet, and then 1 more, so we have a total of 5 double crochets, and then we are going to work an increase. So that's the last pattern, and so you'll just repeat this until the end of the round. I'll show you one more time. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we are going to work that increase into the next stitch. So like the previous 2 rows, I'm gonna hop off camera to finish since these are getting longer and longer, and then I will show you how to finish your hat. Okay, so I have finished my last brim row, which completes the entire hat. So now we just have to finish the hat. So in order to tie the knot, I like to work 1 chain, cut about a 6-inch tail, maybe that's a little long, tighten that slip knot by pulling, but don't let this tail go through. So that's created 1 knot. Then I pull the tail through the remaining loop and tie that even tighter. This kind of just gives a double knot. I've noticed whenever I have done just 1 chain, it's not as sturdy. So now we just need to tuck this tail in. So I threaded my darning needle. I'm going to go ahead and poke this through one of the stitches. It can be this one or this one. And kind of flip that knot to the back of the work, like that. Then I'll flip to the inside of my brim and kind of just start weaving in where I think makes sense. I usually like to go down 1 double crochet and then just along a row of double crochets for a few stitches. Then something kind of unique with this yarn, if you're working with this yarn, is you'll see that this yarn is actually a casing around some like stuffing. So I'm not sure if it frays easily. I don't think it does, but for added security, what I do is I'll pull this tail so it kind of bunches the stitches up and then I'll work a single knot before I cut it to the length I want, and pull that very tight. This way, and then make sure that that knot will sit, when you pull it back, that it'll sit under a stitch, so it does, so let's pull it out. That way I feel it just gives me a little bit of added comfort for when I do cut the tail, like so. And then when you pull it back, it should all just be contained within the brim stitches. So it's pretty clean. You don't have to do that, I think that's just my anxiety, but that's how I finished the brim. And now we're on to this, which is even easier. It's already tucked in if you worked around it, but if not, no worries. Since mine's already tucked in, I'm going to pull it just a little bit. We're gonna have to tuck it more since it's already pretty tight. And then work a knot. So I worked my knot, you can see it right there. I'm going to further tuck this in a little bit. Just going through a couple more of these stitches. I'm gonna pull it through, pull it really tight, and then cut pretty close to where I have it tucked in. Then I'm gonna pull it a little, readjust it, and you don't even see where it is now. And my friends, that pretty much is it. Our hat is now cleaned up and complete. You can see that the brim is a little wavy, but as you see in the pictures, once you put it on, it stretches and then it kind of loses that wave. And then just how satisfying is this? Like the fact that the hat sits on end. Anyway, okay, now I'm getting distracted. But if you do complete this hat, please tag me on Instagram at WatchMeKnit. I would love to see your creations. And if you have any other ideas for projects, comment them down below. Please like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks.